Hi there, and welcome to this National Scrapbooking Day 2022 celebration with Vicki Boutin. I know she's not here to celebrate with us, but she makes sure that we had quite a few challenges for you to enjoy through the day. So make sure you actually watch the entire video and you actually use it to create a project of your own. My challenge is all about using mixed media, especially stencils, and you're gonna see that I've used my stencil two different ways in my project, and you're gonna see it. Now there's two things happening with my project. If you go ahead and you comment once you create your project and you upload it to the Vicki Boutin Community page using the guide system, you're gonna see it there. Then at the end of the week, I will pick up a winner, and the winner will be awarded a $25 gift certificate to the Vicki Boutin shop. Now if you comment in the YouTube channel, in my YouTube channel right now, I'll be giving away a $15 gift certificate to one lucky comment in the YouTube comments. So there's two separate ways of winning a gift certificate to Vicki shop. If you create a project and you upload it to the Vicki Boutin Community page, then you'll be entered into a draw, and at the end of the week, you know, the deadline, then we'll pick up a winner. At the same time, if you come here to my YouTube channel and you leave a comment, I will picking up a winner and awarding you a $15 gift certificate to the Vicki Boutin shop, so you can buy anything that you need or that you see me use in this project. So I cannot wait to see what you create, and thank you so much for joining me. Take care, guys. Hi there, happy National Scrapbooking Day. This project is for the Vicki Boutin Design team. This is challenge 4 of the National Scrapbooking Day crop. This challenge is all about mixed media, and I want you to use a stencil two ways in one layer, or you can use two stencils. The whole thing is that you use a stencil and mixed media for your project. So I'm just going through my stencils, trying to find one that has a repetitive pattern but in a nice and colorful or interesting design. So I found this one is an exclusive stencil from Vicki. You can only find it in her shop. So what I want to create for this is think of adding a piece of watercolor. I'm going to add watercolor on my page, but I wanted to finish in that design, in that stencil design. So for that, I need to first apply my watercolor. I am using the navy art crayon and the darkest blue from the Cool art crayon to create the color for my background. So you're gonna see that I'm gonna scribble the two crayons on top of my mat. I'm gonna add some water to dilute it, and then I'm gonna use a brayer. It's just gonna give me an even coat, a really thin coat, and I can apply it quite a few times. So the first thing I did is I'm gonna use my brush to create a line that's gonna define my box. I wanna keep it as closer to just a defined area as I can, and then all I'm gonna do is roll the brayer on top of the diluted watercolor or art crayon, and then just roll it on top of the paper, and that's just gonna deliver the ink in a way to the paper. And you're gonna see that I'm gonna fill less than half of the page with that, and I'm gonna repeat this process a few times, like 3 times I did it for my page. So make sure you use, like, I'm using Vicki Boutin foundation paper for the background because I want to make sure that it holds the water, and even then my paper buckled a little bit. So just be mindful of what paper you use for your background. So now that I've created my box, I wanna, like I said, I wanna make sure that one side of my box finishes in the design of the stencil. So I'm gonna do some stencil stamping, and I started by applying the color using my brush just to the inside of the stencil. I just want the detail inside. I don't want the rectangle that forms the stencil or that limits the stencil. But when I did that, not that much water was deposited in the design of the stencil, so you can barely see the design. So for my second part here, what I'm doing is I'm dipping the stencil on the liquid watercolor. I'm gonna clean the edges. I don't want any of the rectangle to show, and then I'm gonna put it on top of my page, and you're gonna see that I bring a piece of paper towel, and I'm gonna literally kind of squish down the stencil. That's just gonna make sure that the watercolor runs inside the grooves of the design, creating that watercolor look for the stencil part of this design. simple as that. And that's what I wanted, something that repeated, so it's easy to complete the larger look of the stencil. So once I have that and I'm happy what it looks like, whatever ink I have left over on my mat, I'm just gonna use it to create a few splatters on my page. I just want to give me that messy look and kind of haze a little bit of the stencil design, just make it look a little bit more organic and kind of faded. Once I have all that, I'm gonna set this aside to dry, and then I'm gonna come with another part of mixed media, another layer of mixed media. Now I want a little bit of gold to show on the background, and I thought about adding a bit of stamping. I wanted like a script look for the background, so I went and pulled this Bow Bunny stamp set, and I got the same thing. I got this from Vicki shop a long time ago, and I'm gonna use the gold glaze to create that gold touch on my page. You're gonna see that I'm pulling a little bit of the gold glaze. I'm gonna dilute it, but I want to dilute it this time to the consistency of like a liquid acrylic paint, so a little bit thicker. You want a little bit more viscous, because you want to make sure that it actually holds or coats your stamp set when you apply it. So you're gonna see I'm gonna bring my stamp set, I'm gonna literally just clean any big clump of the glaze that's left on the stamp, and then I'm gonna go ahead and start stamping it on my background. I want it to look as if it is a broken script page, but because the letters are so tiny, it's gonna look like little lines, but when you see it up close, you can see the definition of like hand script, but really faded, but in the really shiny gold. Once I have it all done, I thought about adding splatters using my brush. Instead, I'm gonna reach into the Vicki Boutin stamp set, and I think this is the inspired stamp set, sorry, and it comes with little splatters, the images of splatters. I'm gonna use that to create the splatters on my page. So you're gonna see that I'm being careful to just pick up some of the liquid gold glaze, and then I'm gonna stamp it on my page, and it's gonna look as if I have actually splatters of gold all over my page. Once I have that in place, I'm gonna set it aside to dry. I want to make sure the gold glaze dries completely before I continue on. And the way the gold glaze is gonna dry, it's gonna be like a kind of like a soft bubble. There's a soft texture to the design, and it's just because the consistency of the glaze is a little bit thicker than water. So like I said, once I finish stamping, I'm gonna set it aside to dry, and when it's dry, I'm gonna come into the second part of this page, which is using the stencil in a different way onto the page. Now for this, I want to create texture, so I'm gonna go ahead and mix a little bit of the iridescent paste with some yeso, and I'm using that because the yeso is going to take some of the shine away from the iridescent glaze. I don't want it shiny, I already have the gold on the background, so by adding some yeso, it's just gonna dim down the glitz, give me more like a satin look, and then that's gonna be perfect for what I have in mind. So you're gonna see that I'm gonna mix the two paste in this case, so until they're well mixed, and then I'm going to use my palette knife to apply the mixture onto the center of the stencil. Once again, I don't want to have the rectangular definition of the stencil. I want something kind of simple and messy in the center. So you're gonna see that I'm gonna focus applying my paste right on the center of the stencil. Once I've applied it to the center, I'm actually gonna come in with one of my stencil brushes, and what I'm gonna do is just kind of softly move the edges, just the edges of the stencil, kind of soften them out so that it seems as if the texture is fading towards the outside of the page. Once I created that, I realized that I needed to add a little bit more texture, so I'm gonna go ahead and create a second combination of the paste and just kind of make the application a little bit wider, and that way I can just create that ghost effect that I'm trying to create with this paste and my stencil brush. Once I have that, I'm gonna set it aside to dry. One thing though, when you mix gesso with iridescent glaze, the paste dries fairly quick, so it took me no time for this to dry. But you're gonna see that my page does buckle a little bit, and that's just because of all the liquid that I've put through it. But like I said, it took like less than 5 minutes for the paste to completely dry. And you're gonna see right now what it looks like. You have this area of your stencil that it looks as if the watercolor finish in that stencil look, and you have this other side of the page when you can see the texture. But when you see it together, it looks like as I have a part of my background that was eaten away, and you see the white of the stencil, and then you have this kind of end of this like a broken window pane. So I love what it looks like. And now I want to make sure that I frame it so that all the interest goes towards the the application that I added. For that, I'm gonna actually pull out this paper. I think it's called Happy Thoughts, and I'm gonna use the B side of it because it has this like blue bandana look, and it actually has like a little border that is gonna frame my layout very nicely. So all I'm doing is just running my nails through the edge of the paper just to ruffle a little bit, slightly ruffle the edges, and then I'm gonna glue it straight onto the background so that I cut a frame of 1 inch out of the paper, just because I don't want to waste the paper. And you're gonna see that my paper is quite it's a little bit buckled. It's just because, like I said, all the water. Now here I'm gonna start working on the layers of paper. I already worked with layers of mixed media, and now we're gonna focus on the paper. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna back the photo with this navy paper from the Framework collection, just because it's gonna make sure that it becomes the center, like it's gonna bring all the blue, it's gonna make the image pop. I'm gonna play with the color of my daughter's shirt. She has like a maroon kind of a orangey tone of shirt, so I know that even though I'm gonna stay with very greens and blues, I'm gonna accent my page with that tone of red. So one of the things that I'm sure a lot of you know is that I'm not a fan of mini books. I'm not a fan of mini books per se, so whenever Vicki sends me a tag book, I actually use it as part of my layers, and I'm using the little Polaroid with the butterfly as a layer behind my photo. I always add a piece of chipboard behind my photo that's just gonna give it some height from the page, make it pop. And all I'm doing is I'm using the library card comes from the 6x8, that piece of ephemera, the vellum tag comes from the ephemera pack. I know I need to add a floral, so I'm gonna add one quite big on the bottom right of the layout, right underneath the butterfly, because that's just gonna make that area pop, make it heavy, so that it actually balances the top part. And I'm gonna add a little few more flowers. I want to kind of elongate the design a little bit. I play with some different ideas. Wasn't loving that much. I really wanted to make sure that that area of mixed media that I added, especially where I added the texture with the stencil, it was gonna show. So I was very careful not to overcrowd the area with material. I just want to leave it as plain as I can, but I do want to add quite a bit of interest to my page. So I am actually being very careful of where I place my staff. You're gonna see that I'm placing my cluster right at the bottom right corner of my photo, and that's where that I'm putting it there because that's where the stencil application with the texture finishes. So it's a nice way to finish the design. And then I'm actually going to the second cluster, the one where I have all the papers and the ephemera pieces, the tag. I'm placing it on the top left corner of my picture, which sits right in the middle of the page where there was like an empty space. So and then you just see the little drops of gold on the back. Love how this turned out. Love the background. And all I'm doing is just playing with stickers. I'm playing with stuff from the sticker tablet. I put quite a bit of ephemera. I put a few more pieces like sentiments to add onto my layout. And that's pretty much done. One of the things that I am gonna add is actually a title, and for the title I'm gonna go into the chipboard frame. I love the big word that says beautiful day, so that's gonna be the title on my page. I'm gonna add some foam adhesive so the word beautiful goes from the bottom left corner of the picture towards the left side of the page, and then I'm gonna stuff the word day underneath that. I'm gonna bring a little bit of string just to create the bow in the tag. I do want to have something white there because I have all the blue space in that area, so I'm gonna see me fight with the string to try to turn it into a bow. But once I had it, I was happy. I'm just gonna cut the tails to make sure that, you know, it looks half decent. And then, like I said, I'm gonna work on the title. I already had an idea. I went through all the stuff that I had, and I wanted something that was gonna be like a combination of white and black, something that had a color, and something that was kind of heavy, because I wanted to make sure that it balanced everything else. So you're gonna see that I've created a little triangle and right on the center of my page. Once I have that, my layout's pretty much done. And like I said, I want to make sure, like, one of the things that you see in the image that pops is the t-shirt my daughter's wearing. So to make sure that I match that, I'm actually gonna go ahead and cut some butterflies from the vellum paper. I'm gonna focus on the ones that have like the same tone of, it's kind of a coral tone that my daughter was wearing, and they have the same tone in the butterflies. So I'm gonna go ahead and fussy cut 3 of them. One is gonna go on the title on top of the letter B, just to bring some of the red into that area. Another one is gonna go right behind the tag on the top left corner of the layout, and that's just because I needed, it's a lot of green there. Even though the little paper clip that I added has a butterfly, I'm actually going to use one that it was like cut in half, because I'm going to stuff it behind so you won't see the bottom part of it, just the top you're going to see right now. And then the last one, I'm going to bring another one and I'm going to tuck it underneath the flower there at the bottom. Simple as that. I have them all ready. I'm going to add my lines to journal outside of the camera, probably underneath the word day. But that is it. Like I said, this challenge for you is all about mixed media. It's all about using stencils. Use a stencil to create your layout. If you use it 2 ways, even bonus. If you use it 1 way, it doesn't matter. As long as you use a stencil for your layout, it's gonna count towards the challenge. Remember to upload your image into the Vicki Boutin Vicki Boutin Community page on Facebook. I just added under the comment that belongs to this challenge. You're gonna find all the challenges in the guide section of the group, and a winning entry in the Vicki Boutin Community Center will get a $25 gift certificate to the shop. But if you comment here in the YouTube channel, I'll be doing a second drawing for a $15 gift certificate to Vicki's shop. So go ahead and comment, and thank you so much for joining me. Enjoy the weekend.